So, we're going to get to a hands-on section here. I put a link up here, and it's https://apps.google.com/learning-center. Now, the best way to find that, and I'll just kind of jump on here one more time and show you this. Just go to Google and type in Google Apps Learning Center. Google.com. And if you're using the Chrome browser, you can actually just search right in the Chrome browser like it's Google, and it'll pop up. It's a lot easier than trying to remember, this whole domain. Okay, so if you get on that website, that's where we're going to actually do all of our training from. This would be what I consider to be administrator and secretary, office professional training. There's specific training for teachers that relates to how to work with kids in a classroom. These are going to be kind of app specific, and the two apps that we're going to talk about today are really Gmail and Calendar. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and click on that Gmail link right here. Everybody see that? Let me help you.
I get Gmail for business.
Go ahead and type right in here.
Yeah.
Just highlight the whole thing. Type Google Apps Learning Center.
One word.
Space. Learning Center. Okay, it came up there. And then go ahead and hit enter. And then go ahead and click there. And you're in.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So once you're in here, we're going to start with the Gmail icon, right? Because you can actually just go and grab training specific to each app. All right. So there's a little button that says Get Started, because we're going to start from scratch. They're also on the right-hand side if you're switching from Microsoft Outlook or IBM Lotus Notes. You can actually use these. We're going to cover the same exact thing. So let's just start from scratch just so we can kind of get everything. Okay, so there's 5 sections that we're going to want to talk about today, right? And they're basic, right? How do I compose and send? How do I reply to emails? How do I organize my inbox? How do I find emails? And lastly, how do I create signatures? I like to start almost with 5 first, because I think it's important to go in and do some kind of housekeeping, so to speak, with your account. So I'm going to just go into my account, and I'm going to go ahead and set this up properly, okay? So the first thing I want to do, and you guys should follow along with this, is on the right-hand side, there's a little gear button. You see that gear button on your screen? Okay, if you click it, there's going to be a menu that pops up, okay? And what I like to do is I like to go down to Settings. See Settings on there? Go ahead and click Settings. And what we're going to do is we're going to set our account up from here, okay? So to explain the screen, there's going to be a whole bunch of various tabs that exist up here. We're going to stay on the first one, which is the default screen, which is the General Settings tab, okay? And so I'm going to scroll down, and there's a couple things I'm going to want you to select. Okay, so as I scroll down here, the first one is Conversation View. I want to make sure that Conversation View is on. I think it's a valuable thing. I suggest everybody using that. If you don't like grouping all of your stuff in a chronological format like that, you can always go back to the Outlook style by turning off Conversation View, right? So that's the area we will do that. But give that a try, because I think you'll find having that context and kind of having timelines around mails between multiple people is valuable. Okay. If, by the way, right above that, if you like this kind of text, or if you have your own specific type of text that you like, we have a handful of texts that are in there, various fonts. You can change the size, you can change the color, and that will be your default look of how you like your email to look like. I actually just leave it the way it is. The sans serif is a very nice, easy to use font. Okay. So the next thing that I want you to do, because I think this will save a lot of people a lot of headaches, is there's a button here that says Undo Send, right? I always enable Undo Send. You can do multiple, seconds, 5, 10, 20, 30. I think 10 is good enough. I mean, there's many times where you've accidentally clicked send on an email and you thought, oh, I forgot to attach something or whatever it might be. This just allows you to go back and recall that before it actually gets sent out. It puts a delay in there of that many seconds. And it saves you. Might be someone that you forgot to add to a list, and that way you don't have to kind of be that guy that sends 3 or 4 emails amending things that you've done before. Okay. I'm going to scroll down a little bit further. Now, you're going to want to do this not on this computer that you're on, but your home computer. There's desktop notifications, just like you get in your Microsoft world. We have desktop notifications, so when you get a new email, if you have a computer that you always use, you're going to want to put those on. It's a nice, easy way to kind of know if someone sent you an email or text or instant message. If this is like in a lab or it's a computer multiple people use, a kiosk, whatever, you do not want to do that because that is essentially, putting your information on that device, right? So remember, use it for your personal computers only. We'll scroll down a little bit more. I always recommend that people put a picture up, especially if you're interfacing with students or parents, okay? Get your profile picture. You probably already have one from your district. And go ahead and select a picture that everyone will see. I'll just show you real quick. This allows me to go out and grab a picture. Let me go ahead and grab a picture. So this isn't me, but we're going to go ahead and grab a profile pic. And then I can copy this. So I'll save as. I'll put it on my desktop. And this way we can jump back in here and upload a picture. So I'll say it's on my computer. I'll go ahead and choose file. And I'm on here somewhere. And this will allow me to go ahead and format it. And then I'll apply the changes. And now I have a profile picture. I think it's important to do, especially if you're working with parents and students.
Does this, how does that interact with your Google Plus?
That will be
That is it?
That will be it. Yes. Okay. There's another one that says show the people widget. I always want to show that. You want that data around how you interact with people. It'll start building a profile around your contacts, right? This is especially important for working with parents, right? I always have parents that will call in. They expect me to know that they have 3 kids and what all 3 of their kids' names are. This is a nice way to be able to kind of, search through my search box right inside Gmail and get data about that parent. Any mails that I've had from them in the past, I can open them up really quick. I can look at their calendars, and I also can see any files that we've shared together. Okay. Next thing I want to do is I want to make sure you guys have a nice signature. Okay. There probably is Chris, is there like a standard style signature here? Is it?
No, we put a footer on after the
Okay.
session, but anybody can do whatever they want.
So this would be your name, your room, any numbers that you want to give, or your email address. Throw that all on there. Save it one time, and there's a button that says insert the signature before quoted text and remove the dash line. Kind of separates it. You have that choice. I usually just leave that off, and I always put my footer back. I put my signature in there. And again, this is just going to save you from signing your name and phone number every time. And it's also a professional thing. I mean, I think parents want to see that. Okay, snippets. I like to actually show snippets. This is, when you look at your emails, instead of just seeing that you got a new mail, it takes a real quick snippet of what's actually in that mail, especially if it's something that's suspicious. Sometimes you'll get things that are suspicious and you need to remark it as spam. You'll be able to see if it's a legitimate email or not without ever actually opening it, right? A lot of the spam works by opening emails. Just the action of opening it can infect your computer. So it's nice to have that little snippet there to see if it's legitimate. And the last thing I want to show you, which I think is important, is when you're off, you should always have a vacation responder on, okay? The way you turn that on is you'll always come back to settings in this general tab, and you'll come here and you'll click, vacation responder on. You'll pick your first day that you're gone and the last day you'll be back, and then you'll put the message in there, right? So my subject might be out of office until, 11:10. And then the message, please contact whoever it might be in case of an emergency. And again, you have a choice of just sending it to the people in your contacts or only people at Mount Lebanon School District, with an actual staff email address. I say leave it open because you want to be able to, have parents that are contacting you know that you're actually out and to contact somebody else. But that's, I think, the administrative side. You always, when you're done, want to go ahead and select Save Changes, right? It's one of the few places where Google actually has a Save button. All right? So that took care of that first part. Now, there's another area inside Settings. We're going to go back in there, and we're going to configure it, and they're called Labs, okay? So I want to go over to Labs because there's some very useful experimental stuff that I think make the experience better. And again, this is your personal choice. I'm just giving some recommendations. So the first one that I like to enable is a thing called Canned Responses. And so this is nice, if they're, maybe you're posting a job and, you create a special email address for people to respond to that job. And when someone sends an email to jobs@mountlebanon.school.mtlsd.net, you can actually create a canned response. It'll send, an email back saying, thank you for applying to, Mount Lebanon School District, and it'll have some information, right? There are many instances where you may need to use a canned response. So I say go ahead and just, kind of throw that in there. There's a Google Calendar gadget. So this basically takes your appointments that you have for the day and it throws it on the left-hand side of Gmail so that you don't actually have to jump over to your calendar. It's a nice, quick way to see it. I usually enable that. And if you have Google Voice, I always enable this Google Voice player in Mail. And the reason I do this is Google Voice also comes with voicemail, right? And so, it's just nice for me right from my email to be able to get all of my voicemails, directed to this number. Okay, we'll scroll down a little bit more. And I go ahead and put the Picasa previews in Mail. You don't need to. I like putting pictures in chat just so I can see who I'm actually talking to. It basically takes their profile picture and puts it in your chat discussion. Quick links. So, I'll give you a good example of quick links. So, if I want to make sure that I get all of my emails from my superintendent, okay, you can actually create a filter that takes any emails from that superintendent and puts it in a link, okay, so that you can just click that and look at all of the emails that you ever got from them. That's what Quick Links does. I'll actually go and enable that. You may not use it, but I think the one most important one on here is the one two down further from that, which is right side chat. The reason I say this is chat is actually bunched at the very bottom left hand by default on the Gmail screen, okay? By moving it to the right side of the screen, it actually opens up your folders a lot better so you can see things better on that side, and it balances the page. It actually, out of the box from Google, should come with right side chat, but it doesn't. Okay, and that's about it. And then we'll go ahead and click Save Changes, and you'll see this will then go ahead and refresh my whole page, and you'll see my chat over here on the right-hand side. Okay, and over here, there normally would be a calendar gadget, but I don't actually have anything on my calendar. So in a little bit, I'll go ahead and actually create some calendar events and we'll start to populate here. All right. Okay. So we'll jump back over. So now we've done our housekeeping. We have a signature. We know how to respond to vacation responders if we have them. We're going to go ahead and actually start through the process of composing and sending. So number one is compose and send. So I'll start at 1.1, how to compose a new email. So let's go back to our mail. If you look right under the MTLSD logo, there's a big red compose button, okay? Very, very simple to create an email. I'll go ahead and click the compose button. And again, I have a couple different fields here. So obviously the first one is 2. So I'm going to send this one to Ross. And again, as soon as I started typing in, right, this goes and looks at your directory. We've now taken all of your directory information, all of the email addresses, everybody here in this domain, and we've loaded it in here. We've also went through a migration and took your personal contacts that you had inside your Outlook, right, and we've brought them over for everybody. Those are all slowly coming in there. We should be, pretty much 100% in the next week or so. But this is just nice to be able to have that real quick autocomplete. Again, if I need to CC somebody, there's an area to create a carbon copy, right? And if I need to blind carbon copy someone, maybe I'm issuing some discipline, but I don't want them to see that I'm sending this to the superintendent. I could go ahead and put someone in there. So, I could put Chris in here.
That was a big change for me, having to find that CCBC.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to actually click into that, okay? And so I find Chris here, and I'll go ahead and select him. And now I typically put a subject in there, right? And so we'll call this demo. And then I can actually start typing, right? And so, this is where the text goes. And again, just like in Outlook, you have any kind of, editing formatting options. It doesn't look like they're there, okay? To bring that menu up, I actually have to click that A button, and then I can change its font color. I'm sorry, the actual font. I can change the font size. I can bold it, I can italicize it, I can underline it. I can go ahead and change the color. Okay. Again, your various formatting, so if I want that in the center of the page, maybe it's in a numbered list or bulleted. And if I want to increase my indents or decrease my indents, okay, if I'm quoting something, I can actually quote that. And if I need to remove all that formatting, I can go ahead and click remove formatting, and all of this stuff goes away, okay? You also have the ability here to attach files, right? So that's what that little paperclip looks like. And, I could come up here, and maybe in this case, I want to go ahead and grab that profile picture that we created. Now, one of the things about attaching files, it's just like any mail program. When you attach a file, you're actually attaching the whole payload of the files, right? So if you have a lot of files, there's a better way to actually send it, because, after you get to a limit, 25 megabytes, it's gonna deny that. And in fact, the people that you send it to, they can't actually receive files, that large. So the best way to do that is to actually put that file in Google Drive, and then you send them a link. Okay, so that's what sharing is. It's essentially sending a link, and then the payload of that email actually doesn't go with the email, right? That way it ensures that the person that you want to send it to, because you had mentioned before, someone tried to send you some things with attachments, it's always better to send them as a Google link, okay? Shared to a specific person so that only they see it. You can kind of have some level of control over that, but again, you're sending something with no payload whatsoever, so that it's always going to go through. And then when they click that, you as the person that's sharing that, when they opened it up, right? What they've done with it. You have some level of visibility over how someone uses documents. An email, if I forward you an email, you can do whatever you want to do with that email and have no level of control over that, right? So, again, in a little bit, we'll talk about how to create a document and share it, through there. Okay. This window right here?
No, all at the bottom.
This guy here?
You got the second, where you had the attachments and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So right here at the very bottom, there's the attach file button.
Yeah, I don't have it.
Let me see.
I got this far, but I don't have the,
What are you looking to do?
He's looking for
See,
your
I-
bottom with the
you got the second,
Above it?
link
you got,
and the insert picture.
yeah, the links, the attachments, where do you get the,
Strange. It's there, but it's not showing up on your page. It's really strange. See, they're here. It's probably just slow because it's building the images. We'll have to look into that.
all right.
Okay. You're not going crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's weird too, because
What's the difference between the paperclip and the
I have the bar Rick does and not the bar
the
that
one,
Rick does.
The triangle?
yeah. I just did something with the triangle. but I
Yeah,
don't know
so
what I did.
that's inserting something using a Google Drive. Okay? So that's what I'm suggesting is if you click that button,
Mhm,
I have this, welcome to Google Drive getting started PDF,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
Okay, so you'll see when I uploaded that, it didn't actually put the actual PDF in there. It just put a link to that PDF. And so when they click that, it's going to open up. And Google Drive is going to then allow them to download that. And that way, if you send it to someone where, I mentioned quotas before. Sometimes people, mail domains will say, look, we don't want anything bigger than 10 megabytes coming in here being downloaded, right? Because you can't control who you're sending it to. So it's nice to be able to send them a link with no megabytes, right? So they can always download anything that you send them. Okay. All right. The next thing, just jump in here. You'll never need this send and request money. You'd have to, specify. This is, again, if you're doing commerce with somebody. There's an insert a photo, right? What's nice about the insert a photo, you can actually drag and drop. So if I have, let's just minimize this a little bit. If I have photos that are here on my desktop, oops, let me exit out of that. Minimize this. Okay. I can actually go ahead and drag and drop photos right from my desktop onto here, and it's going to upload those, right? Or I could actually select it, so I could click the photo button and then choose photos to upload, and it's going to then, allow me to actually select that file.
Where do you see photo upload?
It's a little camera. You see that camera there? It's right next to the request money button.
Oh, yeah,
Go ahead and click it,
yeah.
and then you can actually upload your photos if you had photos. Okay? And then there's a link, right? So if there's a specific link I want to send to somebody, maybe it's postgazette.com. I can actually send them a link, and it'll, populate that in there. Okay? And then any kind of, emojis. Maybe I'm really happy today. I can select those. Okay? Everyone loves those. And that's it. And then I can send. Now, before I go and actually send this, there may be some other people that I want to add to this, but I don't know exactly their email address, right? And in fact, I can't even remember their name. So, one of the things you can do is a little trick. You can click the to button, and this is going to pull up all of my contacts. Now, I don't know anybody here, so I don't actually have any contacts, but there's a directory of all the people that's inside the school, okay? So I can click that directory, and in this case, maybe I want someone, I don't know, Anne-Marie Murtha, okay? I'd select Anne-Marie Murtha, and I'd hit select. And now she's actually in this list, okay? And I didn't have to know her name or address. I could actually just browse right from that directory.
Where did you find that again? I'm sorry.
I click the to button. See where it says to? It's not a button, it just says to. Go ahead and click that.
Okay.
And then, it'll pull your contacts up. I don't have any, so I went to actually the directory. And then that's going to pull up everybody that works here. Okay? It's a real easy way to find people. Got it?
Thank you.
Okay. And that is composing messages. Any questions on composing messages?
Yes, I think what we need to investigate later though is that we have differences in the bottom format
Yeah.
of ours.
Absolutely.
I had to reverse it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I get the blue send one, but not the to home bar.
If you click that A button, it doesn't come up. See the A next to send? You're not seeing the format.
No, what they're seeing is there's no buttons at all down here over there.
Oh, the A, I gotcha. I know, so I have what you have.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
so
Rick didn't
I
have it.
still, I get half, but I don't get,
It could be that we need to update the browser.
We'll figure
It's
it out.
using Chrome right?
it'll say.
We'll figure it out. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Okay. Okay, so that's sending. And I can go ahead and click send. And see what it says to me? This Drive file is shared with all recipients. Change how this file is shared in Drive, right? And so I'll say anyone can edit. Okay? And then I'll go ahead and click and share and send. And it basically shared that and sent that off. Now, I can then look in my sent mail. And you'll see that I have sent that away. If I need to pull it back up, there it was. Got it? Okay. So back into my inbox. We're going to go ahead and jump back to the Google Apps Learning Center. Let's open this all the way back up. Okay, so we went through the process of composing. Oh, one thing I should show. Back whenever I go ahead and click compose, one of the things that you can do is you can pop this out, right? So if I want it kind of full screen, there's that little arrow. Let me bring that back and show you that again. Okay. I can also hit shift and click this and make it its own pop-up, right? Because maybe I want multiple and I want to be able to tab back and forth between these. Okay. want to go back, pop it back in, and actually make it down here, then I have that. So that's what that little arrow is. Does that make sense? Okay. I want to show you one more thing because I think this gets tricky. Let's say someone sends me an email, and I want to reply, or maybe I want to forward it, okay? But I want to change the subject. This always troubled me because, like, I click in here and I'm trying to say, wait a minute, how do I change the subject? It doesn't actually give you an option to change it. You actually have to click this drop-down arrow and click on Edit Subject, okay? It's one of those tricky things. I don't think we did that well, and it's not communicated very well. And so I can then go in now once I click Edit Subject, and I can call this, you know, test, whatever I want to change the subject to. Does that make sense? Okay.
What did you hit to do that? Subject, the word subject?
Yeah, so like,
Nothing happens on that.
let me show you again. So I got this email here from Living Social, okay? So you're gonna have to do this on an email that someone sent to you.
Someone sends me.
Yep. And then, you know, I could go to reply or forward, either one. But you'll see, I can't actually change the subject from here. And the way to do that is where, if you click this down arrow, it'll hover over it, and it'll say types of responses, and then I can edit subject. See that? Just a little something to know. I've never really liked how that happened, but I want to make sure you guys know that.
I don't know where to find forward.
Oh, okay. So let's go back here. Want to look up here real quick?
Yeah,
So anytime I get a message in here that I need to forward,
yeah.
I'm going to click that down button. Instead of hitting the reply button, click the more button right next to it. And there's a forward as the section option. See that?
Under more?
Yep. No, under the down arrow button. See this? Let's start over. Let's go into our inbox. So I got something from Groupon. You want to look up onto my screen real quick?
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm going to open an email, right?
yeah.
And I said, oh, this is River Cruises Gateway Clipper. I'm going to send this to my wife, okay? Instead of hitting the reply button, right next to it, there's a little down arrow that says more, okay? I'm going to click that, and the second option right there is forward. See that?
Yeah.
And then I'll just go ahead and click forward, and then I'm off to the races, and I can select who I want to send this to. And it's going to have everything from that old email in the body.
There it is. Okay, there it is. We found it.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we got through 1.1, composing an email. We're going to scroll down a little bit more. We talked about adding recipients and attachments and images. That was pretty easy. We talked about send and undo send, right? So at this point, you know, we know, give you another example. And I'll go ahead and I'll send something. And you would have created an undo send inside your settings when we did it. And I'm going to go ahead and click send. And it tells me it's sending, and there's this little message, your message has been sent, and there's an undo button or a view message, okay? And at any point in the next 20 seconds, I can click undo, because really it's just holding it in a queue. And I'll go ahead and click undo, and it's going to come back to me. Got it? Okay. What's that?
Corrects all those whoops.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's how undo send works. Really simple stuff. Okay, email without an internet connection, right? There's going to be times where, you know, I was just out in Denver, and you know, I had to sit on the plane, but I had all these emails, and I wanted to kind of go through and finish my emails. And the way it works is, when I get back off the airplane and it hits the internet, it then syncs all the work that I've done, and it'll send out all my emails. Okay, so if you look here, this is only going to work in the Chrome browser. So if you try to do this in Firefox or you try to do it in Internet Explorer, it's not actually going to work. But Chrome has an offline setting. Okay, so you'll see in the instructions right here, you go in the top right, you click the actual gear button that we talked about before, settings and offline. So this is not my computer, so I'm not going to actually do it, but I'll just show you real quick. So there's that gear button, right? I'm going to go back into settings. And see this offline button right here? I'm gonna go ahead and click that. And then there's a little link that says install Gmail offline. And that's how you get your offline Gmail to work. It also works inside Docs, so your Word, your slides, your presentations, all those, Google versions of Office files, those all work offline as well. And they all have their own offline tool, just like that. Works just in the same way. Make sense? And again, as you work on it when you're offline, as soon as it hits the internet, you don't have to do anything. It'll automatically sync all that stuff for you and send all your mails and update your files. Okay? All right. Let's go to reply to emails. And again, 3 things we're going to talk about here is how to view new emails, reply, and then change recipients and subjects. Okay? So I'm going to go back into my inbox, and I purposely signed up for Groupon and Living Social last night just because I knew they'd send me stuff. Okay? So first thing I want to look at is I'm going to go back to that Living Social because I got a mail in here. And we talked a little bit before about how to forward something, okay? But I want to look at more than just forward, okay? Because there was that forward message there. There's something called filter messages like these, okay? What a filter is, it's going to look at mail that comes in. And so if I say, you know what, I don't want this Living Social in my actual inbox. I want to put it into a folder, okay? So what I'd do is I'd come over here, and I'd probably want to build a folder, okay? So a folder, and I'm getting ahead in this, but I just want to show you how this works, is what we call a label, right? It's the same thing as a folder. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create New Label, and we'll call this Living Social. Okay? You can nest this under other labels if you'd like. Go ahead and create that. And I just did that so that I have that in there because I'm going to actually create a filter out of this. So when I get back to this email, I'm going to click Filter Messages like these. So anytime I get an email from Deals at Living Social, okay, I'm going to want to go ahead and forward that into that Living Social folder. And I'll say, you know what, skip the inbox, right? We don't need that in there. I can always just check this folder if I want to look at this stuff. And then I'm going to apply the label, and then I'm going to click Living Social, okay? And what that's doing is when Deals at Living Social sends me an email, which they send daily, instead of filling up my inbox, I'm now putting it in this folder. So I'm not getting rid of it, right? I'm not marking it as spam. I still want to look at these deals. And this is how I was able to do that. I created a filter out of that. Does that make sense? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create Filter. And now all that stuff will always go, from that point forward, it'll then exist inside this Living Social. Okay? And it's not there yet because it's from everything from this point forward after we created a label. Okay? If I wanted to get it out of here, I could actually go and grab this, and I can pull that back over into my Living Social, and it'll get it out of there. Okay?
Say that again, how did you do
Yeah.
that again?
So let's take that back there. Let me open that back up. So we'll take this and remove label. So it's going to go back. Okay. So let's say there's 2 ways to deal with this, right? I can actually I can hover over any one of these email addresses, and I can put it in a folder, okay? So let's just take this one from Amazon, okay? I'll left click, right? And it tells me I got one conversation on there, right? And I can put it in any one of these, right?
Okay.
So once I get it over here into this Living Social, I'm going to let go of it. Now that email, when I click on Living Social, it sits in there. It's in there, okay?
Right.
Now let me show you another way, because...
Now, let's say you want it out of there.
Well, okay, if I ever want it out of there, I just open it up, and then I could click it here, okay? And I could move this. I could move it to wherever I want to move it. So if I want to go back into, my inbox, I'll click on Inbox. And then it'll go back to my inbox, okay?
I see.
Or I could put it in trash or spam or wherever I want to do it,
Yeah,
okay?
I got it.
Now, let's just go back to that inbox real quick. So I also like doing this thing called tagging. Because remember, when I mentioned to you before, with Outlook, when I got an email, I had to put it in one of those folders. It could be in my Chris friend folder or my Chris Mount Lebanon work folder, right? And in reality, it should be in both of them, right? So let's go ahead and create another label here just to show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to create a new label. We'll call this Test for Chris. And we'll go ahead and click Create. So I'll have another test for Chris label. Again, label folder, same thing, okay? But the difference is, I could actually go and, again, I want to color these just so we can see it. Make this one, I think that's red or orange. And we'll make Chris blue. Okay. So what I can do is I can actually take these labels and I can put them over here on individual emails. So I'll put a label on Amazon, okay, for Chris, but he also belongs in this folder. And what I'll find is this Amazon.com email is in both of these folders now. So there's that Amazon email in Living Social, and there's that Amazon email inside Chris. It exists in both places.
How did you make the label? I mean,
Yep. All right, so let's go back. If you click on that More button, see the More?
at the very bottom.
Very bottom.
Okay.
All the way down at the bottom. It's always going to be at the bottom. There's Create Labels.
Label, okay,
Got it?
yeah.
So we'll go ahead and click Create Label, and we can call it whatever we want. So we'll call this one Test. And if I need to nest it under one of my existing labels, right? So I want to put this under Test for Chris. I go ahead and click Create. And then when I go back here, you know, there's a little arrow next to this now. And when I click the arrow to drop it down, there's my nested label underneath that. Got it? Okay. All right.
How do
So-
you color them? Oh, I see. I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, it's going back to color these. Any of these labels that I have here, you know, just by clicking the drop down, there's label color. Okay? You can add custom colors, you can remove the color. And it's just, you know, a way to, like, you know, when you're tagging things inside your email, it's just a nice, real quick, easy way, you know, to be able to visually coordinate things.
And then how did you go and tag the email?
Yeah.
How did
So let's just say I want to put, you know, and again, when you're tagging the actual email, what you're doing is you're leaving the email in your inbox and you're putting it in the folder. Okay? That's what that actually accomplishes. So if I want to put this Living Social folder, all I'm doing is I'm clicking and holding down the left mouse button, okay, on the actual label that I want to bring over into the inbox. And see, I can move this anywhere I want now. I got it, right?
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and put it on this one. And now that Living Social exists inside not only my inbox, but it's also inside this folder over here. Got it?
By using the,
Yeah, by dragging that label over. Conversely, if I wanted to get something out of my inbox, because I keep a clean inbox, right? I could then go grab something and pull it, right? So this Groupon, when I pull it and drop it in Living Social, it deletes it out of my inbox, right?
well, how did you keep it in your inbox and?
And put it in there, I applied the label to it. So I grabbed, instead of grabbing the email and bringing it over, I grabbed the label and I brought that over. Got it?
Okay.
So again, the question is, you know, do I want to get it out of my inbox? If I do, I'm going to grab the email and I'm going to pull it over into a folder, right? Boom, I dropped it over. It's out of my inbox. It's now in that folder. But if I don't care about that, I want to leave everything in my inbox, but I still want to put things in folders, I'm going to then just go ahead and grab, you know, again, hold on to the label that I want. I'm going to put it on any email that I have. Right? Works both ways. All right. And we jumped ahead a little bit there because what we really wanted to talk about is how to respond to things, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to respond to some things. I'll maybe respond to Living Social here. So, as I mentioned before, the response is really just that reply button, okay? And again, if I need to edit the subject, I'd click that drop, you know, the drop down right next to reply, the More button, and I come in and I edit my subject. And then I can actually edit the subject, and then I can go ahead and click send. The send button is always going to be on the bottom of the email. Got that? And again, I can still, even though I'm responding to an email, I can always add, you know, images, files, upload things, pictures, links, just like I'm creating and composing an email. Okay? All right. That's how we're responding to emails. Again, viewing new emails, I go back here in my inbox, anything new is going to be bold. So see this Google? I haven't opened this up yet. It's telling me there was a new sign-in from Chrome on Windows. You know, that's our security kicking in, right? This is the device that I was using. It's not my PC. So Google automatically sends me an email saying, you signed in from a computer you don't normally sign in from, okay? Just letting me know. But that's a new one. And so as soon as I click this and I read it, okay, and it tells me where it was, right? It's a Windows device, at what time, the location in Pittsburgh, PA, on Chrome, right? This is the account that I signed in from. Now, if I go back to that inbox, that's no longer bolded anymore because it was opened, right? It's something that I looked at. So you can always tell if you have a new mail by it being bolded. The letters will be bold. And if it's not bold, just regular letters, I've already read that mail. Does that make sense? All right. So that's how we're reviewing new mails. We talked about replying them. And again, just to kind of talk about this a little bit more, you know, if I go back to this Groupon Pittsburgh and I go to reply, you know, if I click that drop down, I have these options again, right? So I can reply, I can forward, right? I can filter, as we talked about. I can print these emails, right? Maybe this is an awesome Groupon and I want to share this with my department. Maybe I'll just send it to the printer and print it, okay? I could add this email to my contact list, you know, right from here. I could delete it. This is an important one that I like. Block Groupon Pittsburgh, right? If you ever got mails from somewhere you didn't like, and they're not necessarily spam or they're not phishing, maybe it's, you know, a friend that you're not friends with anymore, right? I could go ahead and block that person and they can never send me an email again, okay? The next one is report spam. So Google Apps has spam filtering built into this system, okay? So if you see something that you don't like inside your inbox, always click report spam. You can also report spam up here on this menu where it says report spam, okay? And what this does, it'll teach the system, don't ever send this stuff to the domain, it's from a spammer, okay? If you see something like phishing, always be aware. I've seen a lot of scams going around recently where someone will spoof like it's your superintendent sending you an email asking you to, you know, send them a check, okay? And, you know, you can tell it's not really from your superintendent. You know, it doesn't seem right. And, you know, you want to click report phishing. They're trying to get your credentials or something from you, okay? Then there's show original, message text garbled, like it's a question. So if you see something weird, go ahead and click that. That'll fix that. There's also translate message. So if this came in, I really speak French, I'm going to go ahead and click translate message, and it'll change it for me. You can mark it as unread. Okay, those are our choices. All right. Again, changing recipients and subjects, I've already talked about that. Again, it's just simply as typing the email address that's in there. Now, if we go back to this mail, and you know, I'm going to respond. I want to add or change recipients. I just click in here. There's the CC and the BCC. Or if I want to take that guy out there altogether, I can X off him. I can put someone else in, okay? And he's going to be able to receive that email. So very easy. And again, changing the subject, I always think that, I just don't like how that works, but there's the edit subject. It's going to pop it out into its own box, and we're good to go. All right. So organizing the inbox, you know, we kind of jumped ahead a little bit by talking about those labels. But just for the sake of the video, we will go through and talk about it again. So, again, back inside my email, I can always create labels, which are folders, right? By scrolling down to the very bottom, clicking more, and go ahead and click create label. And we'll call this test 2. Go ahead and create it. Once I create it, it then shows up inside my list, right? I can give it a color, which I always should, just to identify them. Call that one yellow. And again, I can start moving messages in or out of here. And again, this is as simple as, you know, you got to decide, do you want messages coming out of your inbox and going into one of these labels, right? So if that's the case, you know, I'm going to go back and I'm going to grab it. I'm going to pull it over. And I'm going to put it inside test 2. And once I drop it in there, it's in there forever and it's out of my inbox. If I want to leave it inside my inbox, but I also want to put it in that folder, that's where we're going to tag something, right? So we're going to go ahead and grab this test 2 and we're going to drop it on it. And one of the things to notice is, I have multiple things, multiple tags on this one email. That means that that email exists in all 3 of those folders. Does that make sense? All right. I think we've exhausted that. So we talked about creating and applying labels, moving emails out of our inbox. There's a thing called starring important emails. And so like if you're in your inbox and you see something that's important, right? Right next to the actual email, there's a little star, okay? And you can always come over into your menu and click on your star. These are like important emails you just want to keep track of, right? You don't necessarily want to put them in a folder. You want to leave them in the inbox, okay? But you want to star them, right? It might be, a date, a meeting, some kind of notice that you get from a parent. You can always star those, and it's going to put it in its own little starred folder. Got it?
Really? Goes over there?
Yeah. So star on one, and then click on the starred tab, and it'll be over there for you. Okay? Nice.
Star just means it's important.
Just important. Yep. Absolutely. If I want to delete or archive unwanted emails, so let's talk about that. So I'm back in my inbox, okay? Now, I may want to delete something. So this Living Social from Open Sky, I can click on that, which I'm essentially highlighting that email. And then these buttons have some features around them that I could either report spam, or I could archive it, or I could delete it. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and delete that. That means it's gone forever. Now, gone forever means we can still recover your deleted emails for up to 30 days. Okay? After 30 days, they're going to be gone forever. Okay? Make sense? So if you lose something, you can always call Ross, Chris, put his help support ticket in. We can always get that back for you. Okay? You wait more than 30 days, we may not get it back for you. Okay? Now, there's this idea of archive, right? So you have unlimited storage inside your Gmail. You don't necessarily need to archive anything. This was actually for, businesses. When businesses buy this for $50 per user per year, they only get 30 gigs of space, right? And so they had to archive things. I actually suggest not archiving anything because you have unlimited storage. But if you wanted to archive something, what that means is I want to get this out of my inbox, okay? It's got to go because I'm one of these folks that keeps a clean inbox, right? And what I would do is I'd then come up and I'd click archive. And it'll get it out of there. Well, the question is, where did it go? So if I click on more, you can always find it in all mail. When I click that, all my mail comes back. Okay? It doesn't actually get deleted. It just archives it and puts it in a place that's outside of your inbox. Make sense? So that's what the archive is.
What about trash?
Yeah, so trash is what I talked about before. If you want to get rid of something, okay, you put it in the trash.
Okay.
And then that'll go away after 30 days.
So let me talk about, so I want to delete something,
Mm-hmm.
but, 3 months from now, I might need it. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just archiving it. Just putting it.
I would archive it if I were you. Yeah. I'd click the archive button because it gets out of your inbox. You don't have to think about it or see it, or it's not coming up in your searches, right? I mean, because you're only going to search your inbox. And if you ever need it, you can always come back and find it again by clicking more.
Like Outlook,
all mail.
you would search your deleted file.
Correct.
And you'd get it all back.
Correct.
But this is just, the archive file is your deleted file.
Yeah. Correct.
Where do you find the archive file?
So it's just called all mail. You click more right here. I'm going to look up here. And then you'll go ahead and click all mail. And that's where all your archived mail is.
Okay.
Okay? That's a little weird. I guess we should have called it archive, but it's called all mail. All right.
How far back does this all mail go?
Forever.
Whatever you had in your box.
Yeah, whatever you had in your box. But like from this point forward, we'll never get rid of email. It'll always be there. All right. The next one how do we find emails, right? So, again, if you're an organized person, you're probably going to be foldering things, right? What we call labels. You know, you could find them by looking in the label. I think that, quite frankly, the easiest way to find something is over here in the search box, okay? So if I click into that search box and I want to find something from Amazon, I just type it and all my Amazon stuff's going to come up, okay? Now, I can get very specific by clicking this drop-down button.
Where did you get the search box?
So it's right next to the MTLSD logo to the right of it.
Oh, right.
Okay, it's okay. So like I said before, you can actually just search it like Google, right? I'm going to search Amazon, and I click search. It's going to go out and just grab everything, okay? So I have 2 emails from Amazon, okay? Now, I may want to get very specific because I get a whole big result set if I do, you know, a search. And I only have 5 emails, so I don't have much, but, you know, you may have hundreds of thousands of emails in your inbox and you need to find it. So the best way to do is to narrow that down. So you could click this drop down. And so, you know, a lot of times you know who you're looking from. You know, it's from Amazon, so, or maybe it's from, you know, Ross, right? And so I'll type Ross's name in there, get rid of that Amazon real quick. So from Ross,
That's cool.
and then, you know, it might be like, I know he said the subject, migration, okay? And, you know, maybe it has an attachment or it doesn't have an attachment. I might know that it's in a certain time period, right? And then I'll go ahead and click search. And it's going to identify the actual email, right? Because, you know, Ross had some questions here and we were able to, you know, give him some answers. And then I'm able to find the exact email that I'm looking for. This allows you to narrow things down, okay? And that's how search works, right? Got it? Now, anytime you want to create a filter, as I mentioned before, that filter is going to be done by creating that search, right? So in this case, I wanted to create Ross. And I'll go ahead and click Create Filter with this search. And now at this point, I can always search something from Ross that relates to a migration. And, you know, it's going to go into one of these folders. I pick which folder I want it to, or I can create a new folder, okay? Or I could add a forwarding address, and I could send that to my personal home Gmail, right? You have a lot of options in terms of creating filters. You can get very creative. You know, you can automatically delete things. You can categorize things. You can automatically star them. Pretty cool stuff, okay? I can click never send it to spam because I always work with Ross. I need to make sure I don't lose his stuff. I accidentally, you know, mark him as a spam email. So that's how that works.
Yeah, so if you send something to spam, anytime you get an email message from that, it automatically takes.
Yeah, but it's going to go into my spam folder, okay? So if I could identify something that's spam. So let's identify something real quick. So I'm going to go back to Groupon Pittsburgh, okay? I'm going to say it's spam, right? So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click the report spam button, or I'm going to go to the drop down next to it and I'm going to report spam, okay? One of the two. You can do it in both places. So you have two choices. You can report spam, right? So this will actually create a profile at Google. Google, you know, because they send to a lot of people. Google has a pretty big footprint, and they're, you know, once you get someone responding to you as spam, you say you're spam. It's like you're blacklisted, right? So it's very important to blacklist them. But you can also unsubscribe. Some of these sites that you sign up to, you know, they'll keep sending it to you until you unsubscribe from your site. Instead of you going to that actual site and risking losing more data, I always click report spam and unsubscribe, right? And it tells me the conversation has been marked as spam. We'll attempt to unsubscribe you from these emails, and we'll do that on your behalf. Okay, got it? Now, if I ever want to go back to that spam, because maybe I accidentally marked that as spam, right? I could come in here and, you know, here it's still there, right? And then I could say not spam, right? Because I made a mistake, and I want to receive things from Google. I'm sorry, Groupon. And then it's back out of my inbox. Got it? Pretty easy. And, you know, if you train your inbox, Every time you see spam, mark it, because it'll clean that up pretty quick, and you will stop getting, you know, all these various emails from Groupon or whoever it might be. Okay. All right, so we got searching done. We talked about advanced search, you know, things that, you know, have an attachment or for within a certain date. Pretty easy. We talked about creating signatures. So there's some more training, right? This is not required, but I just want you to see it. There's Gmail tips. And there's a whole bunch of stuff here. I just want to go through some of these. So schedule events right from your inbox, right? So you probably receive emails with dates or times that you need to add to your schedule. So you can add these right from your inbox. And then next to each one of these, we'll give you an instruction on how to do this, okay? So I don't have any in this email address, but recently took a flight. Just show you this real quick. So I got tickets. I flew to Denver and went on Frontier. It was really cheap. I highly recommend them. And what happens is they will send me reservations, okay? Right? So I got this reservation. What happens here is Google recognized immediately that this was actually, you know, a ticket that I'm buying, and it also has a time and a date of when I'm going to leave. So Google, by itself, anytime it sees these things, it'll automatically, on your behalf, create a calendar event for you. And it put my confirmation, all my data in there. It was really cool. You can stop it, but I recommend, you know, doing that. And again, if there's something here, you know, like dates or stuff, I could then go here and, you know, from this point, I could filter this and, you know, build a filter like we talked about.
So how did
Okay.
you put this in Google Tips? Or
Yeah, so these are just little tips and tricks. That's all I'm showing you here. So let me go back real quick.
and where did you get that?
So, you know, back when we were on the Gmail page, right?
Yeah.
You know, 1 through 5 on Gmail. Let me just go back to the top. Okay, getting started with Gmail. These are kind of some advanced tips. So if I scroll all the way to the bottom of this page, there's Get More Training, okay? And it'll be See Gmail Tips. See that?
Yeah.
And these are really simple ways to, like, you know, another one, number 2, mute ongoing email conversations that are no longer relevant. So there's the Penlink website. Everybody have Penlink, right? So Penlink is a kind of a mailing list for PDE and all the schools that are there, okay? And last week, you know, obviously everyone's out during the 4th of July and they have out-of-office responders on. Well, someone sent an email to, you know, every school administrator in Pennsylvania, and, you know, I got 90 responses in my email saying I'm out of office, right? Because they're automatically replying all to everybody that sends to, you know, an email to. And so what I did is I muted that, right? And so if you click this, it'll tell you, you know, how to mute it. There's instructions on here. And so, you know, again, if you click the More button, then mute. So if I go back here and I really don't want to hear from Groupon Pittsburgh anymore, I can come back and click the More button, and then if I scroll down, there is, you know, a way to mute that here. Actually, I don't have it on here. I'm sorry, it's up here. So you can mute it from up here, okay? And I don't want to mute them. And what that'll do is it'll just stop you from being in that conversation. Okay? Let's go back again. You know, things like compose or reply to an email in a new browser window. We kind of showed that before. You know, anytime that I'm in a compose box and it's down here and I want to pop it out, remember I showed you before, I can click Control and then that arrow button, and it'll pop it out into its own email address. Okay, and that's all that is. Okay, automatically add events to the Gmail calendar. Again, that's what I talked about before. If someone sends you a meeting request or whatever, it'll automatically populate that into your calendar. We won't go over that. It just does it for you. You can automate responses to common types of messages. So these are the canned responses that I talked about. again, that's within a lab. It gets a little bit more advanced. I'll just show you real quick how that works. So anytime I compose a message, I can create a canned response. So we'll call it test, and this might be some test information. And I can actually save this as a canned response. So right down here is a little button called More Options on the bottom. And if I click over onto canned responses, I'll click New Canned Response. And it will take the actual email that I just created as a canned response. I'll say OK. And what that does is next time I go to create a message, and I go back to canned responses, I can insert this canned message already, right? Now, you probably won't use that. And again, that's what these tips and tricks are for. I won't go over the rest of these. I'll let you kind of go take a look at those on your own. But there's just some nice, cool little tips and tricks that you can find on this page. And that's it for Gmail. We're going to jump on the calendar. Would you guys like a 5-minute break?
I have a question. I have
Okay.
a question
Yep.
about these tips. I always try to respond to the teachers, so they know that I got their email, and
Mhm.
I send, okay, just something really simple.
Yep.
So I can do that as a canned response?
Absolutely. There's a great use for that. Now you got to be careful because, if they ask for something and it's, something that you needed to do that was really important, it's going to send it and you might not even know that it sent it. So you just should be careful about that.
Oh,
And they're going to take your response as an actual response from you. So you need to be careful. Where I think this is best used is like, again, if we're in HR and we're advertising jobs and, 75 people are going to apply for a teacher position, right? Instead of sending 75 responses, I'll automatically create a canned response. And I'll create an actual email address like jobs@mplsd.net, right? I wouldn't do it for my own personal account.
calendar,
Mm-hmm.
I always let my science department know when I'm not going to be available.
Mhm.
So if I put that on my personal calendar, that's gonna show up automatically on theirs, or?
As long as there's calendar sharing, and that's session 2 after we come back from the break.
Oh,
Okay. All right, we'll see you in 5 minutes.